I want to open up first by giving all praise to the Most High Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahawashi. The kingdom of Judah remained in the Holy Land, and holy means set apart, okay, in the set apart land, for over a century after the kingdom of the 10 tribes had been broken up by the Assyrian kings. Judah remained until the year 584 BC, approximately, when Nebuchadnezzar took Jerusalem and deported its people and king to Babylon. Now, there's a note we have to understand here. But today, what's happening is those identifying as Jewish are using the language stratagem to proclaim themselves as the children of Israel by calling themselves, quote, Israeli. You have to understand that, which just means an occupant of the land. If you look up the definition of Israeli, it just means occupant of the land. That's all it means. It never refers to being Israelite. It never refers to being of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It never means that. It never comes to that. It means occupant of the land. Okay. To the question, what do Israelis call themselves? The answer is this. There is no parallel in the Hebrew language for Israelites. The concept of Israelites is best expressed as the children of Yisrael or Bnei Yisrael. The Bnei Israel is still used to refer to the Jewish people in all. Yisraelim is Hebrew for Yisraelis. So you'll see this in some of the, now that Yisraelim is Yisraelim. I am denotes plural. And what they're saying is, and this is Hebrew, they're saying that's Hebrew, the modern Hebrew for the word Israelis, right? You see, which Israeli, we look it up, means which means the citizens of the land of Israel. That's all it means. But you can look up the word Israeli. It's going to say that no matter where you look it up, it's going to say that they're the citizen of the land of Israel. That's all it means. It's not a people. It means you're a citizen of the land. Okay, so it goes on to read in the second paragraph on page 10. Josephus informs us that Jerusalem remained desolate for 70 years, and that desolate means that the Israelites were out of the land. Desolate does not mean there was nobody in the land, and we know that because when the Syrians exiled the northern kingdom out of the land, they imported their people into the land. They had problems in the land, had to call for priests to teach them how to live in the land so that the land would not rebel against them. We saw the same thing in the southern kingdom where there was multiple capturing of Israelites under Nebuchadnezzar, Babylon, taking Israelites out of the land until there were what they considered no Israelites in the land, which is basically just a small remnant. And that's how it actually went down. Okay. So desolate means when the Israelites are not in the land. Okay. Until about 50,000 people led by Ezra, Nehemiah, and Zerubbabel returned to rebuild the ruined city and its temple. Those who returned were of the Babylonian captivity of the kingdom of Judah, not of the 10 tribe kingdom, which had been deported to Assyria. And they also numbered a minority of Levites, some of the house of David, and some who could not trace their lineages. Now, there were no Levites of the house of David, okay, unless he's referring to, this is what he's mixing up some things too. Because he's not of the house of David, is a descendant of David. So it would be inappropriate to say that it was part of, if saying house of David is the southern kingdom, that would be inappropriate. Okay, so the Levites are not from the house of David. The Levites are from the tribe of Levi, the priests. Okay, so the Levites could not have been from the house of David because David was from Judah. Within the house of David would have been a better reference to King David. Okay, within, using the word within the house of David would have been a better way of describing that. Okay, the fact is that there were an unknown number of the 12 tribes that did move and live within the territory of the southern kingdom of Judah. That's just the facts, because they were invited down by one king we know for certain is Hezekiah. He invited them down for High Holy Day, and I believe there was another king that did the same. All right, so they had been encouraged to do so by a few of the kings of Judah to worship in Jerusalem, because that was the place of worship. It was not in any other place. It was not in nowhere in the land of the 10 tribes. Okay, goes on to read. Josephus informs us of Cyrus's express permission granted to the Israelites. You see, he got that right. To the Israelites, not just those of the tribe of Judah, to return to their own land, but states that, quote, the rulers of the two tribes of Judah and Benjamin, with the Levites and priests, went in haste to Jerusalem, yet did many of them stay in Babylon, as not willing to leave their possessions. This is in Antiquities, chapter 11, subparagraph I and 3. He makes no mention of any of the 10 tribes returning to the Holy Land or the set apart land, and says, quote, now the number of those that came out of captivity to Jerusalem were 42,462. And Ibid means in the same place. That's all that word means. It's a writing, a publishing word. It just means in the same place. Okay. This total, allowing for Josephus's expression, allowing for Josephus's express statement of, quote, about 525 expelled priests, is close to that of Ezra chapter 2 and Nehemiah chapter 7, which give 42,360 plus some 7,337 servants. These people, numbering just under 50,000, founded what is known in history as the nation of the Jews. Basically, it's the nation of Israel again. All right. Even if it's a portion of Israel, they represented Israel. It was not a kingdom as the former house of Judah had been. In fact, it was never known as a house. Now he's saying, first he refers to it as a house because it causes more confusion. Now he's saying he shouldn't have done it. Okay, here we go. But it was a nation with its own country, people, constitution, and rulers. These rulers were the high priests of the house of Aaron, with the exception that towards the end of history of the Israelite nation. Now, here's a note. Here's a note that we need to understand. This is an example of how the Europeans interject one of their tribes into the biblical and world narratives. There were and never has been a time that Israelites referred to themselves as Jewish. But there came a time in history that a European people did assume that moniker for themselves. That is the facts. All right. Now it goes on to read. The Aaronic priests were displaced by politically ambitious and evil men took their place. Evil Israelites took their place, to be specific. All right. And then later it was the Edomites, the Idumeans. Okay. The territory of the house or kingdom of Judah was that of the tribes of Benjamin, Levi, and Simeon, whose people seem to have become dispersed in all Israel, according to J-ish belief. Okay, that's their belief. It's a belief. It's not in the Bible. Okay, so here we go. We have to make this distinction. Okay, these European Jewish interject their oral traditions and beliefs and customs into books, film, etc. to support the re-imaging. I'll say that again, to support the re-imaging of the Israelites. This is how they do it. Okay. So the book goes on to read, its territory did not extend into that of the 10-tribe kingdom. Land occupied that by the Israelite nation was somewhat larger than that of the kingdom of Judah, was known as Judea. This is another renaming by the Greeks. All right. Now this name Judea originated with the Greeks and later kept by the Romans Okay. So was known as Judea and included some of the land of the former 10-tribe kingdom of Israel. Now, it would not have been the case before that because it was separated between the northern and southern kingdom. But when you get these Ish people involved and you get at the time of the Idumeans and the Herodians, then a lot of things change because those nations that dominate the Israelites changed the boundaries and the landmarks, so on and so forth. All right. And included some of the land of the 10-tribe kingdom of Israel. Nazareth, for instance, where our Lord's family resided, was on the border of Zebulun and Issachar, but in the time of the Israelite nation, it was in this case, it could be a portion of the 1948ers in the land as well. And not easy, but a reference to that is when Hamashiach says to a group of the Pharisees and Sadducees and high priests, and they responded that they had never been a servant, never been in slavery. Well, guess what? Those were because they were not the Israelites. So there, right then and there in the Bible, in the New Testament, you can see that there was a portion of people claiming to be Israel. They more than likely were not Israel, but they were the descendants of Abraham. Okay? They were the descendants of Abraham. They were not Israelites, though. Because the Israelites went into captivity. All of the Israelites went into captivity. All the Israelites had descendants while in captivity. Okay, you got to understand that. Okay, so there's another, before we read the next paragraph, there's something else I want to share, and it is a question. Where did the name Judea come from? All right, and the answer is the name Judea is the later Hellenized, which is Greek. The Greek conversion of Israelites is called being Hellenized, is the later Hellenized version, that is the Greek-speaking Israelites, of the more ancient Hebrew Yehuda, the name of one of the 12 ancestral tribes of Israel, which means the name Yehuda means praised, or the Most High praised. Yehuda was known as the tribe that would give the rise to the Davidic monarchy during the Iron Age, about 1000 BCE and after. Okay, so going on with the book, there was, besides the Israelite nation, a vast multitude of dispersed people of the former house of Yehuda who did not, like the 50,000, return to the land. They say that they renamed Palestine. This is also an insertion. The word Palestine is an insertion, just like the word Jewish is an insertion. Okay, because the land is not the name of the land at the time. This name came later in approximately 400 BC by the Greeks. The Palestine came into existence as a word for the land in 400 BC by the Greeks. All right. So it goes on to read, or to constitute themselves into a nation. They remain subjects of the various nations, the Gentiles, the Heathen. Okay, that's what we're talking about. Let's be more specific. All right. They'll never call themselves that because you got one writing the book, but that's what he is. He's a Gentile and a heathen, in which they either remained or wandered. Now, wandered, that's not W-O as in going off and wandering. Wander is when, what does it mean? It means to walk or move in a leisurely, casual, or aimless way, as it has been for thousands of years until the awakening of the true Israelites in this time. Okay, the 20th and 21st century, which is the Holy Spirit resting upon the true people of the Lord, Yahawashi Mashayach. You're about to read how these Europeans are interweaving themselves into the biblical and world narratives very heavily, as I am suspect the rest of the book is going to do also. Okay, so back to this book. In Numbers, they, the Gentiles or heathen, I'm putting that in there, doubtless far exceeded those of the Israelite nation. Esther, Mordecai, Tobit, and a number of others, now those are all in the Apocrypha, okay, mentioned in biblical and apocryphal literature, belong to what is known as the dispersion. But there's no Jewish people that were ever dispersed. There were no Jewish people ever dispersed. That's just the facts. Now the Jewish people were provided land in the land of Canaan that they called Palestine. They were flown over there, and well, before that they were on boats over there. Then they were flown over there later. All right, that's not a dispersion. That's just a flight or a boat ride. Okay. So neither, quote, the dispersion nor the Israelite nation ever succeeded in reconstituting the former house of Yehuda. It was indeed Jeremiah's shattered potter's vessel, which could never be reformed. Now, we're going to talk about that. That is an assertion too. Unlike Israel, typified by the, quote, marred, soft, and unfired clay, which could be molded again, the kingdom of Yehuda was broken forever. And this is not true. The Bible never says that. He's given a scripture reference for Jeremiah chapter 18. I've read it, And this is what you got to understand. You can go back and read it yourself. Jeremiah 18 does not mention anything about being broken forever. It doesn't say that in there at all. In fact, the word forever does not appear in chapter 18 at all. Okay, the chapter is about the Israelites being mad at the word given to the prophet Jeremiah and their plot to kill him and his asking for the Lord to punish them. Read it for yourself. Now listen to this. Here's another little note. This is important. It is with the formation of this is going to be true in this case, okay? It is with the formation of the Jewish nation in Palestine that the name of Jew first appears. This is absolutely true, because before that, the letter J did in 1524, talking about 1948. This is absolutely true. He's telling the truth right here. But here's a little note I want you to know. Since 1524, not before in ancient times, more specifically in 1948, ironically, the year before this book was written, or this is the second edition, but they are to interject themselves again. They're going to do this again and again and again throughout this book. But we're going to get to the truth. Okay, it goes on to read. It seems to have been an abbreviation for the name of Yehuda, which it is. Jew is an abbreviation or shortened version of Yehuda. All right, and that's just what it is. That's the fact. And first appeared after the return from Babylon, and actually in Babylon, because we see Esther, we were called the Jews. All right, according to Josephus, who, writing of the initial efforts to rebuild the temple in the days of Ezra and Nehemiah, says, quote, "So the Jews prepared for the work, that is, the name they were called by for the day that they came up from Babylon, which is taken from the tribe of Yehuda, which came first in these places, and thence both they and the country gained that appellation." The appellation means name or title. This is Antiquities 11, 5, and 7. "So thus in the days of the kingdom, the land and the people had been known by the name of Yehuda. In the days of the nation under the high priesthood, the land became known as Judea and the people as Jews." This is clearly outlined in an article in Jewish Encyclopedia, from which the following extract has been taken. Okay, and we see here it says Jew, the word, up from the 17th century, which is the 1600s is the 17th century. From 1601 to 1699 is the 17th century. This word was spelled in the Middle English in various ways. And you see because it took time for that J to catch on, but before that, it was a G. And you see all the iterations there on the first line, the second line, and we're going to start reading the third line. Then it finally comes to the J-E-W. And it says, all these forms were derived from the Old French G-I-U, which was earlier written J-U-I-E-U, derived from the Latin. Okay, now you got to understand something about this Latin. Latin is another European language. It's not a Hebrew language. It is another European language. Okay, and it's a Latin accusative. Now, what is an accusative? It means relating to or denoting a case of nouns, pronouns, and adjectives that expresses the object of an action or to the goal of motion. Okay, now they say Judaism with the elision. Elision means the omission of a sound or syllable when speaking of the letter D. Okay, so in this word, Judaeum, you would not pronounce the letter D, and I'm not going to even try to do it. Okay, it goes on to read, the English word is met with a plural form as early as 1175. Okay, and it couldn't have been because the J was invented in 1524. So this is another insertion. Okay, in the Lambert homilies in early English, the form UDAA, derived from the name place UDAA, is found in the Anglo-Saxon Gospels of, they say Anglo-Saxon Gospels. Okay, John 18 and verse 35 of about the year 1000. German Judeo, from which the modern German Jew, see, German, European, English, European. You got to see the connection, okay? It says Jude has also arrived. Now, do you see the European insertions into language that they use to support themselves into the narrative? We just pointed out, they pointed out some Anglo-Saxons, they pointed out some English people, and they pointed out some Germans. All right, this is how they insert themselves into the biblical narrative and the world narrative. Reading on to the book. In the Old Testament, the term Jew appears to be applied to adherents of the worship of Yahweh, or what they have there is the Tetragrammaton, as conducted at Jerusalem after the exile. Though that's not when they were called. That's because the letter J was not created. That was BC time. J wasn't created to AD time. Okay, it's pretty simple. All right, it is thus used in the book of Esther, and they say in the Jewish Encyclopedia 1925 edition. Now, true enough, in English, yes, it is. But in Hebrew, you will find, when you look up that word, it's Yehuda. If you look it up in a Strong's Concordance or the Blue Letter Bible, you'll see that Jew is short for, what they say Judah, is Yehuda, which would be the Hebrew way of saying it. Okay? So it goes on to read, it is important to bear in mind the fact that 10 tribes did not return to Palestine. Okay? And Palestine is the Greek and later Roman, they call it Palestina. All right? And unite with the Israelite nation. Many, or the rest of the Israelite nation, more better appropriate to say, many have been under the impression that they did so, but historical evidence of such a fact is entirely lacking, and it is the agreed testimony from various, here we go, those 1948er sources, that the 10 tribes have not united in Jewry, Josephus, in the time of the anointed, right as follows. Now they are absolutely correct. There is no unification of the 12 tribes under this Jewish thing, this Edomite thing, this Esau-Edom thing. There's no 12 tribe union. All right. They claim to be of either Judah or Levi. None of the other tribes. And then they brought in a sprinkling of color with the Ethiopians, but they won't allow those African Americans that were brought up here in slave ships, like Deuteronomy 28:68 says. They don't invite them in and say that they're Israelites. They say that they're what? They even say that the those so-called black Ethiopians are what? Jewish. You see, they don't say the Israelites. They say they're Jewish. Now, what citizens they become? Israeli citizens. There we go. Back to that again. Hopefully, you see the truth. So, Josephus writes, quote, and when these Jews had understood what piety the king had towards the Most High and what kindness he had for Ezra, all right, Ezra is the Greek, the English version of the Greek for Ezra, all right, they were all greatly pleased. Nay, many of them took their effects with them and came to Babylon, and very desirous of going down to Jerusalem, but then the entire body of the people of Israel remained in that country. Wherefore there were but 2 tribes in Asia and Europe subject to the Romans. You see, this is they doing it again, insertion again. While the 10 tribes are beyond Euphrates until now, and are an immense multitude and not to be estimated by numbers. The reason why is because we're not supposed to be counted. And this is in Josephus Antiquities 11:5-2. Okay? So there is no evidence that 10 tribes have been united with the Jews since Josephus' day, which is absolutely correct. And it says, and the Jews themselves are foremost asserting this.